On exercises 49 through 56 in section 4.3, so this comes from section 4.3, we're going to need to know those identities that came out of section 4.3. And when you know your identities, you can see things. We're going to use lots of substitution rules. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to transform the left-hand side of the equation. So I'm going to transform this left-hand side so that it looks exactly like the right-hand side. So I'm going to keep the right-hand side fixed, and I'm going to change or transform the left-hand side so that eventually it says secant of theta. And then secant of theta equals secant of theta means that this is truly an identity. Now, it's not a common identity, so it's not one that we're going to have to memorize. You can make an identity out of, you can make an infinite number of identities. An identity is just a statement where the left-hand side of the equation equals the right-hand side. So like 3x plus 4 equals 3x plus 4. Sometimes this side doesn't look like 3x plus 4. It looks like x plus 2x minus 7 plus 11. But in essence, it's still 3x plus 4. So what do? We simplify that left-hand side so that it looks like the right-hand side, and then you know that you have an identity. So let's get started. I've got cosecant of theta times tangent of theta equals secant of theta. I'm going to erase these purple lines right here. And remember, the right-hand side is fixed. Not changing the right-hand side. Can't move things from left to right. The right-hand side just gives us a target as to what the left-hand side needs to look like. Well, using my flashcards, I know that the cosecant of theta is the same thing as 1 over the sine of theta. There's lots of things that the cosecant of theta is, but I'm thinking that 1 over the sine of theta is going to be my best bet because the tangent of theta is equal to the sine of theta over the cosine of theta. So I used reciprocal identities to substitute 1 over sine of theta in for cosecant of theta, and I used the quotient identity to substitute sine of theta over cosine of theta in for tangent of theta. Now if I just use simple multiplication rules, I get sine of theta over sine of theta cosine of theta, or I can reduce those fractions before I multiply, and I get 1 over the cosine of theta. Every single one of these steps, this step is necessary in your work. And then 3, I'm going to use that reciprocal identity again. 1 over cosine of theta is the same thing as secant of theta. Now, if you don't know your identities, it's going to be virtually impossible for you to do these problems. So make sure you're studying your identities. You can see them. That's why we do the flashcards, so that you can see them and you will get better and better at problems like this. They're going to be simple problems like this in your homework for section 4.3, and then much more challenging problems in 5.1 and 5.2 and beyond once we get to chapter 5.